is the question actually, do you want to know? Or is the question, do I have to tell you? Because there is a burden that exists when you have to inform somebody that you have done something that hurts them, right? Because ultimately in that moment, you have to take on a degree of ownership for their pain. And so if you are somebody that wants to do something that you know already is going to hurt your partner, it is actually much easier to not have to talk about it. And so it's just very interesting to me that he is in that moment. He is trying to opt out of telling her about his indiscretions by proxy, by making it her choice. Because it's like, would you even want to know? But what he's actually saying is, I don't want to tell you. That's how he actually like flips the burden onto her shoulders, where she has to say like, do I want to know? No, I probably don't want to know. But she needs to know, because you can see already that she's stuck in this loop of like, if she doesn't know, she's going to go fucking crazy regardless. You're listening to Heartbreak Alchemy with Alaska Wolf.
Hi. How are you? I miss you. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Alright. Okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't make me feel great. Well, if that's what you need to do, then I guess. Like, how will it work? Where? Right. I mean, it makes me really sad, but No, I'm fine. I want you to be happy. Okay. Okay, I'll speak to you later. I love you. Bye.
So that outro to that song from Lily Allen's West End Girl has literally had me in a fucking chokehold for the last 4 days. I have listened to this album so many goddamn times since I heard about it, because it just so perfectly encapsulates this breakdown of a relationship, this like heartbreak that you can feel. It's like impending heartbreak. You can literally feel it from the moment that phone call begins, and you hear those pauses and those fits and those starts and all of those unsaid words that actually exist between what is being said. And I don't mean from his side, I mean from her side, because every single time there was a hesitation or a pause or you can literally feel those words in your throat. And if you're anything like me, this whole thing just felt like, there's no other way to describe it except for like a car crash. You know how they describe car crashes in the movies, where it's literally like you're seeing the car crash happen in front of you and you're also above it, looking down, watching the car crash happen. That's what this outro feels like to me. Because, oh my God, I've been her. I've had those conversations where I know in the moment that I am letting go of everything that I truly want in order to be with this person, in order to agree with this person, in order to be what this person in front of me wants me to be. And you can just feel the weight of that inside of every little moment of that conversation. And I think that's why it's so incredibly goddamn powerful. I think that's why so many people are talking about this album right now, because so many women are just like, They can feel their broken heart. They can feel those moments of the past where they were Lily sitting in front of their own version of this man as he basically casually drops a bomb in the middle of their lives and walks away thinking everything is fine, because that's what you've said. You've said it's fine. So what I really want to do in looking at this album is to use it as a mirror, because I always say with relationships that relationships are a mirror, and it's not just our own personal relationships that are a mirror, it's actually the wider relationships we see in society, because it can be so easy to get mired down in your own relationship, in your own heartbreak, in your own situation in the world, and forget that actually a lot of the things that we're going through as a collective. Because this isn't just about one relationship, this is about the broader cultural context of relationships right now in 2025. There's been a reshuffling of what are the roles inside of the relationships, what are their expectations, what are the boundaries, what do we actually desire from relationships? Like, everybody's looking around the world and being like, how do you even date anymore? How do you relate to other people? Like, everything is shifting. Masculinity, femininity, like how we move through the world, how we interplay and interrelate with each other. And this album is such an incredible example of the reshuffling that's happening inside of relationships, where there are power dynamics shifting all over the place, where there are new paradigms and new dynamics that people are asking for. There's new expectations about what relationships actually are there for and what they give you. And so there's so many themes that come up that I think are so relevant and so important for the women out there that are currently moving through a heartbreak. Because this is honestly one of the most powerful moments of your life if you can harness it. And I think Lily Allen does a really beautiful job of bringing forward all of these different themes of self-abandonment and self-worth, of codependency, and how intimacy can shift the dynamics inside of relationships. She brings forward conversations about what we actually expect from our partners and what we have been willing to settle for and tolerate up until now. And she also brings forward this really powerful conversation around taking back your power inside of relationships and inside of your life and inside of who you actually are in this world. And I really think the reason that this album hit so hard for me is because Lily Allen's story is my story. Myself and my partner were in a relationship for 3 years where from before we even started dating officially, I knew that he wanted an open relationship. But my perspective was that if I could just love him enough, if I could be perfect enough, if I could show him safety in relationship, if I could be his dream girl, if I could be everything he ever wanted, then eventually he wouldn't want that anymore, and he would be able to love me the way I wanted. He would be able to give me safety. And so listening to this relationship unfold in Lily Allen's album was so poignant, because when I was inside of that relationship, I couldn't see the slow tearing away of myself that I was doing, all of the parts of myself that I was hiding and pushing to the side and denying and just pretending weren't there, all of the needs, all of the wants, all of the desires, all of the ugly parts of me that I didn't share because I was so obsessed with being enough, with being perfect, with being chosen, that I couldn't see that happening. And so there's this really beautiful quality of recognition that I have while I'm watching Lily Allen's album, because it's so obvious from the outside. And I'm sure in her retrospect, like looking back at that situation, it was also very obvious to her when she's writing about it and seeing just like all those moments where she papered over the cracks and denied what was truly happening and denied her own feelings about it. And it's really powerful to be able to see it from the outside with such clarity, and to see how she has so deftly spoken about these things that so many of us go through. And so I also really invite you to listen to this album and recognize that although she is talking about open relationship and she is talking about cheating and lying and just like finding out all of these like quite extreme things inside of a relationship, know that you will have an equivalent. It might not be the exact same. Maybe inside of your relationship, it was not an open relationship. Maybe it was not, there was no lying or cheating or anything involved. But there will have been something happening inside of your relationship, a dynamic or a certain hot button issue that became your irreconcilable difference. And for me, it was open relationship. For Lily, it was open relationship and lying and cheating, but yours might be different. Yours might be avoidance or incompatible attachment styles, or you wanted different things for the future, or there was gambling issues, or any myriad of things, even like mismatch of desire. You know, anything can be one of these irreconcilable differences, but the way that actually Lily Allen handles speaking about these things is so deft. Like, she is so beautifully able to put into words like the wounding that's underneath those differences and the wounding that comes up when those parts of yourself are poked and prodded. And so what I really want to do in the breakdown of this album is to look at the themes that are underlying all of these songs, to look at the wounding, to look at the things that are happening, and to give you a bit of a deeper understanding of how this applies to your own life and how you can apply it not just to the moment that you're in right now of heartbreak and breakup and of loss, but moving forward, how you can actually use this moment of heartbreak in your life as a moment of complete reinvention, of taking back your power, of becoming the woman that you've always wanted to be, of truly using this moment in your life, this rock bottom moment in your life, to finally become the woman that you're here on this earth to be, to impact the world in the way that you want to impact the world, to actually experience the kind of relationships you want to experience in this world, because heartbreaks are a fucking portal. And I don't think that culturally we talk about that enough. And that is really what I want to get across by talking about this album. So we're going to go into this album song by song and break down what is happening inside of her lyrics, what is happening inside of her life, and look at the themes and the things that are underlying this relationship inside of this album.
And now we're all here. We've moved to New York. We found a nice little rental near a sweet little school. Now I'm looking at houses with 4 or 5 floors, and you found us a brownstone, said you want it, it's yours. So we went ahead and we bought it. Found ourselves a good mortgage. Really cool and got sorted. All the furniture ordered. I could never afford this. You were pushing it forward. Made me feel a bit awkward. Made me feel a bit awkward.
And so this opening scene that Lily brings us into is literally so idyllic. Like, she has the man, she has the relationship, she has the house, she has the career, everything is going incredibly. And this truly to me feels like the embodiment of everything women have been told by this society that we live in, this culture that we live in, is gonna make us happy. Like, if you have a relationship, you're winning in this world. If you can also have a career, you're getting to have it all. Like, you're so lucky. And it's interesting because as she sets up this fantasy narrative that really feels like her partner has sold her on, her partner has very much set himself up as the man that's going to provide this world and this life and this happiness to her. It's really fascinating to me how quickly she starts to undermine that fantasy, and how quickly, like, the truth and the reality of what's happening in the relationship starts to come out. And you start to see it literally right away, where she's like, I could never afford this. You were pushing it forward. It actually made me feel a little bit awkward. She already is having this sense that there's something not quite right about this fantasy that she is building, this fantasy that's being sold to her by her partner. And what's fascinating to me is that immediately she has an internal sense where she's like, something's off about this. She immediately is like, this made me feel a bit awkward. Now, awkward could mean anything. It could just be like, oh, taking from somebody else, or maybe she has some struggles around receiving. But like, what it really speaks to me is like this awareness that there is something off between what is being promised and what is reality. And this is where everything in the relationship hinges on, because ultimately the downfall of the relationship is the space between what has been promised and what reality actually looks like inside of their relationship.
I woke up with Sue, I put the key in the door, and then my phone started ringing, so I answered the call. And they were like, hey, you got the lead in a play, you gotta be back in London for rehearsals in May. And later that evening you said, how was my day? I said, I got some good news, I got the lead in a play. That's when your demeanor started to change. You said, I'd have to audition, I said, you're deranged. And I thought that was quite strange. And I thought,
And as we move into that next moment in the song, it's so telling because she tells him about winning this role. She's gotten the lead in a play in the West End. This is a big deal for her. This is a pivotal career move. And he basically tries to pull her down a peg or two. He doesn't believe her. He is jealous of her. He's jealous of her success, of her opportunities. He's jealous of the fact that she has gotten something that he presumably wants in his life. And so he pulls her down a peg or two and he's like, no, you'd have to audition for that. And she's like, what? But she also doesn't want to see the truth of him. She doesn't want to see the nastiness that's in that comment. She doesn't want to recognize the cruelty that's in that moment where she is telling him about a success that she's had and he is trying to pull her down a peg or two by denying the fact that it's even possible that she'd have to audition, that she's not a big enough star, that she's not good enough to have gotten the role without auditioning for the role. He is jealous and he is mean in this moment. And although she has the opportunity to see it because she recognizes it, she says, I thought that was quite strange. She doesn't. She got on the plane and she boarded. She ignored it because what she wanted in that moment was to uphold the fantasy that she had been given. She wants to be able to believe that everything he's told her is true and real and that he will come through. And for me, what I see this is as the beginning of like the sunk cost fallacy, where you're like, well, I've come this far with this person. I recognize that we've been in a relationship for this much time. I have believed what they've said up until now. And I don't want to have to let go of what I believe is going to make me happy. I'm not willing to choose the pain that might come with making a different choice inside of this relationship. And so she just abandons herself. She completely ignores the cruelty in that tiny little moment. And she goes on with her life, not knowing that actually this man was coming with a bomb for her life. And that's when we get to the outro, which is so goddamn powerful. Oh my God, when I first heard it, I was like,
hi, how are you? I miss you. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Alright. Okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't make me feel great. Well, if that's what you need to do, then I guess. Like, how will it work? Where? Right. I mean, it makes me really sad, but no, I'm fine. I want you to be happy. Okay. Okay, I'll speak to you later. I love you. Bye.
And then we get to the outro where this man literally comes into her life with a bomb to explode underneath her. And there was something so chilling about this outro for me because I have had this conversation multiple times in my life, not necessarily about open relationship, but the kind of conversation where I would be speaking with my partner and I would not be saying what was true for me because there was a part of me that wanted so badly to hold on to the relationship that it was coming at the cost of my truth. And I know that so many women can identify with this because this is something that's literally programmed into us. We are taught since we are so young to keep the peace, to keep people around us happy, to agree, to be pleasant, to be available for what other people want and need. And so we're so willing to shapeshift into who they want us to be that we end up having these conversations where you can feel the words like getting stuck in her throat and getting stuck in her body, and just she doesn't know how to say anything because all she wants to say is like, I don't want this. No, I don't want to do it. But she's been taught, she's been programmed to believe that she has to agree with what he's asking of her or demanding of her, I would say. And it's just really, really sad because you can literally hear her in those stilted conversation moments just being like, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. You can even hear in her voice, she starts to tear up, that emotion taking over her body. And from what we can hear from her side of the conversation, there's no mention of that. He doesn't ask, you know, is she okay with it? What does she want? What are her preferences? What are her desires? What are her needs? The whole conversation, even though we only have the one half, is very much like, I want this, I'm gonna do this, this is how it's gonna look, this is how it's gonna do, how do you feel about that? Oh, you feel bad? Okay, well, whatever. You know, like it's a very callous conversation for dealing with something as tender and as fragile as opening up a relationship to more people, to especially in a sexual realm, which can get very, very sticky, especially for women, because of our own conditioning around sex and the way that we hold sex in kind of a different place in our lives than men have been conditioned to hold sex. I'm not saying that sex is different for the two sexes. I'm saying that like our conditioning makes it so. So yeah, I just really felt like affected by this outro because it's so goddamn powerful. And it's just interesting because it really feels like so much of the identity that she holds inside of their relationship is one that morphs and shifts to please him. And you could really feel that inside of that conversation that was so like tinged with everything that was unsaid. So fucking powerful. Now for the next track, we have Ruminating.
I've given up on getting sleep tonight. It's 4 a.m. and I'm in fight or flight. Ruminating. And I can't shake the image of her naked on top of you. Now I'm dissociated.
Ruminating for me is one of the most powerful tracks because the repetition in all of the lines really gives you this sense of somebody that has been thrown into complete chaos in their life. As I said before, it's like a bomb has gone off in her entire life. Everything has been shattered. Her sense of safety, her sense of normalcy, her sense of identity, like who she is inside of the relationship, what can be expected, who her partner is even. And so this song is really giving you that sense of like, my whole body is in fight or flight. I have been thrown into this like moment in my life where nothing feels like solid ground underneath me. And she is searching desperately in her mind for the answers. And this is something that we are so prone to do as women or as people in this world. When we are feeling super unsafe in our body, instead of going into our body and trying to figure out how we can calm our nervous system, how we can reach a place of stasis inside of our body, we run to the mind because we've been taught that the mind is where we're going to find safety. It's where we're going to find the answer and the story and the narrative that will make things okay. But what you'll find in the mind is just this loop of like the story, the loop of what's happening, the loop of like this image of this woman on top of her partner and top of her husband, and she's dissociating. Like she has to get outside of her body, she has to get outside of her mind because she is so like activated by everything that's happening inside of her life right now that she actually cannot calm herself. She cannot even focus. And so she's constantly ruminating. She's trying to figure out how she can make this okay when she knows in her heart of hearts that it's not what she wants, that it's not okay with her. And this is quite literally a trauma response. She's moving through a large trauma, betrayal trauma, a break in her relationship that has thrown her so far into the unknown that she doesn't know how to find her way back to safety. And I really think this is a really pivotal moment to pay attention to because of how she is trying to escape into her mind, because that is a loop that so many of us fall into. We just want to escape into the story, into the rumination, into fixing it, into controlling it somehow. And that's not always possible. A lot of the time, what needs to happen in these moments is we need to actually recognize the truth of what's happening. We need to recognize the wound. We need to recognize the familiarity, the pattern that's happening inside of these moments so that we can actually deal with this inside of the body at the root instead of just reacting immediately to the thing that's happening in front of us and throwing us off balance. You can also really feel in this song that there's a real childlike quality to the way that she's repeating herself, where she's saying like, you're mine, you're mine, you're mine, you're my number one, you're my number one. Won't you tell me that I'm still your number one? Like, there is this quality inside of this song where she is so desperate to hang on to the partnership, where she's desperate to do whatever it takes. She is literally imagining her partner having sex with other women and still being like, yeah, but I'm still your number one, right? There is this sense that you can feel already how she is willing to overlook, to close her eyes, to just shapeshift, to allow herself to be breadcrumbed by this man, because she wants so badly to be chosen. She wants so badly to not be abandoned that she is willing to do anything.
And I'm not hateful, but you make me hate her. She gets to sleep next to my medicator. You're mine, 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 mine. You're mine, 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 mine. You're mine, 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 mine. You're mine, mine, mine.
The other thing that I thought was so poignant, and it was actually back up at the top of the song, was, I'm not hateful, baby, but you make me hate her. And that was such a painful line, because this was something when I was in my own relationship with my ex-partner, that when he asked for an open relationship, it really killed, damaged my relationships with other women, because all of a sudden his desire to have an open relationship and my desire not to have that kind of format inside of our relationship meant that every woman that he would speak about. And this was such a powerful line, because it was like, I'm not hateful, but you make me hate her. And this line for me was so powerful and so poignant and so sad, because I recognized myself in it so much. I was in a relationship with a man that wanted an open relationship. And what that meant for me as a knock-on effect in my life is that I became really insecure and jealous and just challenged around other women, because all the women that I know basically in the world are incredible and beautiful and talented and doing amazing shit. And they're just like, everybody's a powerhouse, you know, like there's so many people doing so many fucking incredible things. And it meant that every time a woman would enter my life that I wanted to be friends with, or a woman would enter his life that he wanted to be friends with or wanted to have sex with, I would immediately get really jealous, and I couldn't have a relationship with those women because I felt so jealous. And the only way that I could be around other women would be as if I could put them in a category of like safe or unsafe. And most women fell into the category of unsafe because my partner was unsafe, our relationship was unstable. And so I just really saw myself in that line. And it's such a cultural thing that women are pitted against each other when there is a dynamic that involves a man that they're in competition, quote unquote, over. And they've really set up this system inside of our society and inside of our culture that women should fight each other for the man, instead of recognizing that any man that makes you fight for him or causes this skirmish between two women is probably not actually walking in integrity. Because if you were truly having a man that was walking in integrity, that would not be the fallout from it, right? But I also have to recognize that in those moments when that happened in my life, that was something that I needed to be aware of and recognize and be like, is this acceptable for me, that my relationship makes me not want to have friends, makes me not want to be around these incredible women that are available to me in my life? Like, is that something I'm willing to accept and tolerate for a relationship? The answer now would be no, but at the time, it was yes. It honestly was yes. And all of this was subconscious. I'm not saying that it was a conscious awareness, but in hindsight, there is a level of responsibility that needs to be had when you are moving through these moments in your life. And when you can see the patterns, when you can start to see what's happening, then you actually have to take responsibility for the fact that you are making a choice to allow that to be the relationship that you choose.
I told you all of this has been too brutal. You told me that you felt the same, it's mutual. And then you came out with this line, so crucial. Yeah, if it has to happen, baby, do you want to know? If it has to happen, baby, do you want to know? If it has to happen, baby, do you want to know? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. But what a line.
This made my skin crawl, because it is so obvious that he is distancing himself in this moment. Like, he is saying like, oh, if it has to happen, it what? If you have to have sex with other women, like, what do you mean? If it has to happen, if it's destined by the gods, if it has to happen, do you want to know? Because it's like such a subtle manipulation of language and of the situation, because it's really distancing himself from what's happening in this moment. Like, these are choices that he is making. These are requests, demands that he is making of his relationship, of his wife. And yet when he speaks about it, there's this real distant quality. Is the question actually, do you want to know? Or is the question, do I have to tell you? Because there is a burden that exists when you have to inform somebody that you have done something that hurts them, right? Because ultimately in that moment, you have to take on a degree of ownership for their pain. And so if you are somebody that wants to do something that you know already is going to hurt your partner, it is actually much easier to not have to talk about it. I think that's also why a lot of these dynamics, when people set them up, when unhealthy people set up open relationship dynamics, a lot of the time the rules can be don't ask, don't tell. And that for me is very telling, because one of the tenets of a really healthy open relationship or monogamous relationship is that you can actually have conversations about anything. That you can talk about the things that are positive and wonderful in your lives, but you can also talk about the things that are challenging and painful for either of you. And so it's just very interesting to me that he is in that moment. He is trying to opt out of telling her about his indiscretions by proxy, by making it her choice. Because it's like, would you even want to know? But what he's actually saying is, I don't want to tell you. That's how he actually like flips the burden onto her shoulders, where she has to say like, do I want to know? No, I probably don't want to know. But she needs to know, because you can see already that she's stuck in this loop of like, if she doesn't know, she's going to go fucking crazy regardless. And I guess this is why it feels so sad that she's agreed to something where she actually is having such a physical reaction, this rumination, this fight or flight, this like body collapse that she's in right now. It is so painful to witness from the outside and to recognize from the outside. And I'm sure that while she was going through that in the moment, she really thought she was doing the right thing. She thought she was satisfying his need and making him happy and like keeping him and having him choose her by being the perfect modern wife, as she says later on in the album. And what we're really seeing in this moment is self-abandonment. Like, we are seeing her choose her partner instead of herself in this moment over and over and over. She is gaslighting herself to pretend that she can accept this and endure this. She is really like diminishing what the truth that her body is telling her is. She's pretending that it's like she can just ignore this fight or flight. She can ignore the fact that she can't sleep. She can ignore the fact that she's constantly stuck up in her head and can't think about anything else, I would imagine. She's literally overriding her intuition in this moment because she wants so badly to be able to hold on to the fantasy, to be able to hold on to the man that she thought she married, to the life that they're supposed to have, to the fantasy that he sold her on what their life would be like together. And so this song was so goddamn powerful for me, because it really speaks to the slow erosion of self through self-abandonment, through choosing of the other instead of yourself. And that for me was just like, ooh, so good.
You won't love me, you won't leave me, you don't touch me, still so needy, and I don't know if you do it intentionally, somehow you make it my fault, you don't stop talking. And I'm just sleepwalking.
So the next track on the album is called Sleepwalking. And for me, this really speaks to the moment that she's in her life. This moment where she is wanting to close her eyes to the truth of what's happening around her, that her relationship is falling apart, that her partner is somebody that is willing to betray her, that she is choosing a life that no longer feels safe or feels compatible with her true desires. And I think a lot of us can kind of identify with this moment inside of a relationship where, you know, you feel like you've put in so much time and you've put in so much effort and you've like tried so hard and you've done so much that it feels almost impossible to walk away, even though the relationship that you're actually choosing doesn't feel good anymore. And this can go on for a very long time, or a lifetime actually, if you let it. And so I just found it really potent the way that she was describing what was happening inside of her relationship right now, where they're like, you don't love me, but you won't leave me. And they're having all these like late night conversations trying to figure out the Rubik's Cube of their relationship and their sex life. And it's just like, it's impossible to solve because they're basically coming up against incompatibilities, and he is wanting something and defending something and demanding something, and she is kind of allowing it. She's allowing this reality to move forward in her relationship, and it's actually really, really sad. But what I also found poignant about that line was like, you don't love me, but you won't leave me. Because there's really, again, this distance inside of this way that they're speaking. It really feels like she recognizes that her partner doesn't love her, but he will not leave her. But there's no sense of agency inside of that line. There's no sense of like, well, if you won't leave me, I'll leave you. It really feels like she somehow in this moment in her life feels like, I don't know, like a bystander almost in her own relationship. Like she is watching the relationship that her partner is giving her, as opposed to being an equal part of this relationship where she has agency to choose, to come, to go, to accept or not accept. And I think this really is speaking to like the self-abandonment that's happening, because ultimately when you're willing to abandon yourself and you're wanting to go along with whatever the person in front of you is desiring, you actually do lose agency. You lose touch with yourself and your desires and your needs and your wants. And like, that's so obvious just in the way that she's even speaking there. There is a part of her that has been trained to believe that ultimately it's her responsibility to make this relationship work, to make her partner happy, to accept whatever is on offer. And that's really powerful and also really sad, because I think so many women have unconsciously felt that way, where there was just so much happening inside of their relationship and they really didn't feel like they could leave it if they wanted to.
Why aren't we fucking, baby? Yeah, that's what you said. But you let me think it was me in my head, and nothing to do with them girls in your bed.
This was such a powerful little moment for me also, because you can really feel the way she feels a sense of like blame, or she's willing to accept the blame that's being laid on her for why their relationship is breaking down, why they're not having sex, why they're not kind of feeling close and in love. This is where you can really see the conditioning that women take on inside of relationships, the conditioning that we've been taught as women to take responsibility when there's problems or disharmonies inside of relationships. We are taught that we should figure out how it was our fault and how we can fix it ultimately. Because if we decide it's the other person's fault, then ultimately we can't take responsibility for it and fix it. And I think that's one of the reasons that so many women inside of relationships, they'll have these incompatibilities with partners, like their partner stonewalls them or gray rocks them, or won't like have a real conversation about what's going on in their relationship. And women, we try and figure it out a way to like make it okay, you know, oh, they had a bad childhood, or they have never been loved properly, or any millions of stories and excuses that we can come up with for our partner and the why they are the way they are, so that we can somehow make the relationship go again, you know. And so ultimately what happens in this moment is like we begin to settle as like the status quo. We begin to accept the way our partner is, but we strip them of the ability to change, theoretically, in our minds, right? Because we think that's just the way they are. And if there's no requirement for somebody to be better and do better inside of the relationship, many people will choose to coast, because why would they not? You know what I mean? Many people come to relationships wanting an easy life. They want to be accepted, they want to be loved, and they ultimately don't necessarily want to have to do that much work on themselves to get those things. And that's the tricky part, because if you go into a relationship with somebody based on potential, based on who you believe them to be able to become, it means that ultimately you are dating a version of them that is not yet that. And if you accept the version of them that is not yet that, there is not really any motivation for them to change, you know? Like if you accept an abusive partner, they will probably continue to be abusive because they knows there's no cost to that. And so I just thought that was really powerful, the way she was describing like how she was trying to take ownership of like the collapse of their relationship, rather than recognizing that it was caused by this very real thing that was happening inside of their relationship, where he was wanting to have sex and pursuing sex and relationships with other women. And this really was like something that also came into the next part, where he was saying like, this for me on so many levels was just like so revealing of the situation that was happening with them, because I know that Lily Allen earlier in the last song had talked about how they hadn't really been having sex since they got married, and it really speaks to this idea of like the Madonna horror complex that can be really prevalent inside of relationships, where I thought this was so interesting because it's really speaking in not very veiled terms about the Madonna horror complex that a lot of men can experience in their worlds, where they basically have seen two versions of women. And there's one that's like the Madonna, the mother, the angel, the wifey character. And then there's the other type of woman. That's the whore. That's the woman they want to fuck and have sex with and have a one night stand with and never speak to again, doesn't really respect. And there's something about this complex that just cannot fathom that both of these things could be inhabiting one woman. Like a woman cannot be this like multifaceted character. She needs to be one or the other, and she needs to be categorized as such. And you can really feel that she is holding a lot of pain around this dynamic, where she got married to this man because of the fantasy that he sold her on. And then as soon as they got married, it's like he had stripped away the different facets of her that actually exist. He could only see her as one thing or the other. And actually he had chosen to put her in the Madonna character, and he had decided that the way to have his needs met inside of this relationship was to expand his circle of women to be bigger, rather than recognizing that Lily is also a sexual person that has sexual desires and wants to have sex with her partner in a way that's safe and beautiful and just feels nourishing for them both. And this split doesn't really allow for that. And so there's a lot of pain that you can hear about that. And something I really recognized was when I was in my past relationship with my partner, I remember one night asking him about his fantasies, and it was already an edgy feeling question for me, to be honest, because I at the time was not really somebody that felt super comfortable in my sexuality. And I remember him saying something along the lines of like, I want to be able to fuck other people. And in that moment, I just remember like my heart dropping down into my stomach, because I had reached out to ask this vulnerable question to try and connect us more to something that could connect us physically and just like open up a broader conversation around what we want and what we desire inside of our relationship. And I just felt like that really shut it down, because all I heard in that moment was like, I don't fucking want you. I don't desire you. I don't want to have sex with you. I want to have sex with other people. Like, you're not enough. You're not good enough. You're not whatever, insert all of the things here. And so I know that how deep that pain can be, because ultimately you want to be able to exist as your entire self. You want to be able to express your sexuality and your needs and not feel like they're an inconvenience, or that ultimately they won't be received by your partner. And I really think this is one of the things that adds to the numbness that women can feel inside of their bodies and inside of their sexuality, because when you come up against an answer like that, or any kind of answer that basically is shutting you down inside of a sexual experience, it can be very debilitating to your sexuality. It can be. And so she finishes the song again, you don't stop talking and I'm just sleepwalking, you won't love me, you won't leave me. And for me, this song, this whole title track, and she finishes the song by saying, you won't stop talking and I'm just sleepwalking, you won't love me, but you won't leave me. For me, the sleepwalking that she's talking about is really what it requires for her to remain inside of this relationship. She's talking about the self-abandonment. She's talking about the spiritual bypass. She's talking about the settling and the tolerating and the shape-shifting. She's talking about closing her eyes to a situation that requires her to literally not pay attention to her gut, to her body, to her thoughts and her feelings and the way that this relationship actually makes her feel. This really brings it back to the dichotomy between brain and body, because what's happening in this moment is like she's trying to override with her mind while her body is screaming out to her with fight or flight and rumination and this feeling of like sleepwalking and knowing on some level that she is ultimately overriding what she truly wants inside of a relationship by closing her eyes to the truth of what's happening. And such a powerful song, such a powerful line. Let's move on to the next track.
Daddy's home for the first time in weeks. Got the dinner on the table. Tell the kids it's time to eat. And I made my baby's favorite, but he didn't seem to care. I just tell myself he's jet lagged and I'm glad to have him here. Then you showed me a photo on Instagram. It was how you grabbed your phone back right out of my hands. So I read your text, and now I regret it. I can't get my head around how you've been playing tennis. If it was just sex, I wouldn't be jealous. You won't play with me. And who's Madeline?
So tennis for me is that moment inside of the relationship where you are becoming acutely aware of literally how bad things are inside of your relationship, where you are quite literally convincing yourself that you still want this. Because I love the way she was like, Daddy's home for the first time in weeks, got the dinner on the table, but tell the kids it's time to eat. Made my baby's favorite, but he didn't seem to care. I tell myself he's jet lagged and I'm glad to have him here. Like, there is so much inside of this tiny little moment, because it's like she is still showing up to this relationship, making his favorite meal, getting the kids ready, doing her part, and he is showing up after weeks away, having sex with other women, having broken the relationship down by his desires that he kind of has pushed on her, and he's showing up indifferent and without energy, and he doesn't seem to give a shit. And she's like just trying to make excuses for him. She's trying to do whatever she can to be chosen. She is just showing up and showing up and showing up, and this really speaks to her role inside of the relationship. She's definitely like the more anxious one. She is the overfunctioner. She will do the most in order to kind of earn the relationship as a prize, instead of like recognizing it as a partnership that exists between two of them. And what's really interesting is literally the next line, where she's like, you showed me a photo on Instagram. It was how you grabbed your phone back right out of my hands. And it's like that feeling again inside of her body that something is off, like it's not right. The way that he's moving around her, like it's shady, it's shitty, there's something up around it. And she can feel her intuition telling her like, this isn't right. Like what's happening is not normal. Like you can literally feel that, like, you know, that feeling when somebody is like too quick trying to grab their phone back, and you're just like, what is it? What are you doing? It's that suspicion that you can feel literally in your body, probably like your chest tightening and your solar plexus going crazy, and like your head starts to spin of like, what is going on? And I think that's really poignant, because there's definitely this part of her that doesn't want to lose this relationship. And so she's willing to override herself, you know, she's willing to override herself. And she says in the next line, she's like, so I read your text and now I regret it, because I can't get my head around how you've been playing tennis. Now, for me, when she speaks of tennis, it feels like she's talking about more than just sex, that it's more than just the sex that they had agreed would be okay, but it's more like a back and forth. It's a relationship. It's the ping pong of flirtation or making plans or creating a deeper bond than what was permissive inside of their relationship. And I really feel for her in this moment, because it's like she's already agreeing to something she doesn't want. And now she has to even see that even in those moments where she's agreed to something she doesn't want, he's going further than that again. And she can't really accept it. But she also is still stuck in this fantasy of like wanting him to choose her and wanting to be okay with things she's not okay with. Which is why she's like, if it was just sex, I wouldn't be jealous. You won't play with me, but who's Madeline?
I need to be alone, so I took myself to bed. I got a lot of information that I can't even process, so I
that one hurt. Like, that literally brings tears to my eyes, because those moments inside of relationship when you are doing the most to try and explain how you feel and how you've been hurt and what's going on for you, and the other person can not only not receive it, but their reply to you is that it's basically your fault that this is happening. My whole body is reacting to that. It's just so painful. This feeling of not being seen, not being heard, of being left alone to carry the blame of something that you didn't do, didn't choose, and are already in so much pain carrying, is just like, it's so sad. It's ultimately so sad. And it's like, you can see inside of their dynamic what's happening is that, like, she is willing to take the blame. She's willing to do the most for this relationship. And his way is to just kind of disregard everything and kind of disengage and basically avoid. And I guess there's a little bit of avoidance on both sides, because it's interesting to me that she was wanting to write an email and tell you what I saw. Maybe that's because she really wants it to be something that's like on paper, where she has time to process her feelings and to really recognize what's true. And like, I guess also when you're in a relationship where somebody is gaslighting you quite a lot and saying like, oh, it's this way, or it's that way, or it's not this way, or, you know, keeping information from you, it can actually feel safer to have things on paper, because you can look back at it in black and white. And that's why I think a lot of people in push-pull avoidant relationships end up texting a lot. They text because there's a part of them that can't handle the nervous system struggle that's happening when they're sitting in front of their partner. But it's also the fact that then they have things in black and white that they can look back on and they can point to, and they can say, no, you said this, I said this. And that can feel like a safety mechanism, but it's actually just like a control mechanism. And I just think it's quite sad. Like, she's already agreed to this relationship she doesn't want. She's trying to keep him so badly, and he's still trying to make it her fault that this whole thing is going down as it is. And yeah, it's just really sad. And then she just ends the song like, who's Madeline, who's Madeline, who's Madeline, who's Madeline, who's Madeline, who's Madeline, who's Madeline. And you can just feel the desperation and the childlike quality again inside of that. Like, who is this woman? What are you doing with her? Why are you choosing her over me? What's going on? And I can just really feel how that would be inside of her body, like how she would be feeling just this, like, this whirlpool of emotion and of fear and of like needing to know, needing to control this situation by knowing. And it's just really painful. It's really, really painful. And you can imagine how shut down you would feel because of that. Like, if you've also seen the visualizer for this track, it's her sitting on a bench, and like there's morticians coming by with a husband, like a flower arrangement that says husband, and then somebody throwing tennis balls at her. She doesn't react at all. She's literally getting hit with the tennis balls, and there's like no reaction. There's this sense of numbness that's really pervasive inside of the visualizer for this track. And I just think that's so real, because I don't think that women recognize that one of the ways that we protect ourselves in relationships, in sexuality, in different facets of our life is like numbness. And of course, this goes across the board for men and women, but women particularly inside of relationships, numbness can feel like a solution, which is why a lot of women struggle within their sexual relationships. They can struggle with orgasm. They can struggle with needs and wants and desires and boundaries, because they're actually very disconnected from their bodies. And that was something that I struggled with for so many years. Like, I was inside of this relationship having wild sex, quote unquote, being very explorative, doing a lot of things, but also not feeling anything. I really couldn't have an orgasm with my partner. I didn't feel safe. I was performing my orgasm. I was like pretending that I was somebody inside of this sexual relationship that I wasn't, because I wanted to keep my partner. And open relationship really felt like a threat to my entire existence. And so it really pushed me even further into disconnection, because I was not only disconnected from my body as I was from the jump, but then I had this pressure to be this very sexual person and to be what my partner wanted, that I put on myself. I'm not blaming my partner for this. I'm saying that I put this pressure on myself. And so it shut me down completely. It shut me down to touch. It shut me down to orgasm. It shut me down to using my voice. It shut me down to desires and fantasies. And I just was completely disconnected. And yet from the outside, or if you had seen our sexual relationship, you would have thought like, those are two people that are really into this sex and they're really in their bodies. and I literally couldn't feel anything. I was so numb. I was so disconnected. And so you can really feel that numbness inside of the visualizer that she has for this track. And yeah, it's really, really powerful.
We had an arrangement, be discreet and don't be blatant. There had to be payment, it had to be with strangers. But you're not a stranger, Madeline.
Hey, he is telling you the truth. Our relationship has only ever been about sex. I can promise you that this is not an emotional connection. We don't speak outside the time we spend together, and whenever he talks about you, it's with the utmost respect.
This next song, Madeline, is so fucking powerful because this is the one where everything is coming to a head, where she's literally being confronted with the fact that this open relationship is no longer just theoretical. This open relationship is literally another woman that her partner is sleeping with. She has a face, she has a name, she is on the end of a phone call, she's on the end of a text line, and all of these rules that she had set in place to keep her safe have not even been adhered to. Like, she agreed to this open relationship that she didn't want. She put in place structures to keep her safe, and then he didn't even pay attention to them or honor those structures. Like, it was supposed to be in hotel rooms, never out in the open. It was supposed to be with payment, not with strangers. Don't be blatant, be discreet. And all of these things have just been left off to the side. And so she's got to be wondering in this moment, like, what the fuck is sacred? Like, you don't want to be in the relationship I want to be in. And then when I give you everything you fucking asked for, you still take more. And she's in this moment, and she's in her life where she's just like, why the fuck would I trust anything that's coming out of your mouth? Because you're a fucking liar. Like, you're such a fucking liar. And I really feel for her in these interludes where Madeline is speaking, because it's like, now she has to be confronted with this woman that is being nice to her in a moment where she is just like also the object of her husband's desire, which is the thing that Lily covets so much in this moment. So there's just such a like aggravation inside of that relationship already, and it just like is really aggravating this sense of competition that exists between these two women. Like, you can hear when she is listening to this text, when the music cuts out and when she's saying her name, and everything feels like, even the actress that they've chosen to do this, she has this like real valley accent, which is something that, you know, in culture is seen as very annoying and very like airheaded. So it's just interesting that they've chosen that, because that feels like the exact opposite of Lily Allen. Like, Lily Allen is very forthright. She's got a low, deep voice. She is somebody that is very seemingly centered in herself. And then she's got this like fucking valley girl as her nemesis, set up as her nemesis. And it's just like, it's sad, because it's also bringing to light this like sister wound that exists between women, where it's that competition aspect again. And like, having to listen to a stranger kind of stand up for your husband is a bit rough. It's a bit rough.
You tell me he's telling the truth. Is that the case, or a line that he fed you? Wanna believe you, but is it a ruse? Lie to me, babe, and I am you. I can't trust anything that comes out of your mouth. I'm not convinced that he didn't fuck you in our house. Do you two ever talk about me? Has he told you that he doesn't love me? I bet he tells you he loves you. I've got an ugly. I wouldn't trust anything that comes out of his mouth. And why would you trust anything that comes out of his mouth?
And the other thing that comes forward for Lily is like, again, this really patriarchal conditioning that exists for women, where, you know, as soon as her husband is interested in another woman, she's like, I must have gotten old, I must have gotten ugly. Like, that must be the reason why he doesn't want me anymore. She's searching for ways to blame herself inside of this. And it's really sad, because it's just such a, like, it's such a dagger in the heart of so many women, where they are recognizing that like the cultural commentary on women's aging is that you get old, you get ugly, you're not worth as much. Like, over 40 is basically dead, and like over 30 is past it, and over 25 is like men don't want that. Like, and it's actually like, it's incredibly creepy, first of all, that we have created a culture, we've decided on a culture through repetitious thinking and decisions that values youth so much, where youth is something that is so chased by everybody because we've been taught that as you age, you become invisible as a woman. Like, it's really like this lie that your worth is tied up in how men see you. And if men want you and if you are fuckable, then that is what makes you worthy in this world. And it's really speaking to like a very sad part of our society that exists right now. We've prized youth to the degree that women have basically been erased when they grow older in this world. Inside of this culture, there is not space created for the voices of older women who hold so much knowledge and so much power and like are literal powerhouses. And it's really fascinating to be seeing the commentary that exists inside of this album on that as well.
I hate that you're in so much pain right now. I really don't want to be the cause of any upset. He told me that you were aware this was going on and that he had your full consent. If he's lying about that, then please let me know, because I have my own feelings about dishonesty. Lies are not something that I want to get caught up in. You can reach out to me anytime, by the way, if you need any more details or you just need to vent or anything. Love and light, Madeline.
So obviously that feels like it was a text message or something, but I think the love and light would have sent me over the edge. And there's something about this text at the end that feels really patronizing to me, because this love and light perspective on painful experiences inside of the world is something that really gets to me, because, you know, there's a lot of times where you see things that are happening in the world, wars, genocides, things that are just like unacceptable. And people say things like, I just want peace. And it's like, that's fine. But you have to be involved in creating the peace. You have to stop being part of the problem to be creating peace. You can't just want peace and then still be participating in the cycle that creates harm, right? And that's what this feels like to me. It's like, if you are aware that there is pain and if you are aware that there is pain, if you are aware that there is upset, if you are aware that there is question marks above whether or not there's consent and dishonesty inside of this relationship, as the other woman, you would imagine that your first thought in that significant scenario would be to exit stage left, to be like, okay, cool, I am understanding that this is not as clear and as honest as I thought it was. So I'm gonna dip, and you guys can sort yourself out. And if at some point it gets to the point where there is clarity around this situation, I can re-enter if that is what's in everybody's highest alignment. And if not, I'm willing to dip. Like, I really feel like that's the moment that we're in right now. And it's like, that's why that text for me feels very empty, because you're like, I need you to walk away from causing harm, and you're sending me a text that says love and light. Like, bitch, please.
The ground is gone beneath me. You pulled the safety net. I moved across an ocean from my family, from my friends. The foundation is shattered. You've made such a fucking mess. I tried to be your modern wife, but the child in me protests. I need a drink. I need a valley. You pushed me this far, and I just need to be known.
So this song for me is probably one of the most intense songs on the album, because honestly, she has like one verse, and other than that, it's just her repeating over and over and over how much she needs a drink, how much she needs a Valium, how much she needs to be numb. And this just really brought me back into my own life when I was moving through that relationship with my past partner, because, you know, I spent a lot of that time when we were in that relationship together on ketamine, taking just lots and lots of ketamine, because I was in the same place as Lily. Like, I was at the edge of what was okay for me in my life. My nervous system was shot inside of this relationship. I was constantly in fight or flight. My body was just on edge. I was having all sorts of health issues. I was having a lot of stomach problems. I literally had a stomach ulcer at one point that put me in hospital for a week. I had to have blood transfusions, like the whole thing. And ultimately, it's exactly what Lily is talking about here, where the emotions that you're experiencing are so big and so painful and so ever present that there's literally no way out of it except for numbness. And this for me is really one of the themes that repeats inside of this album that makes it feel so powerful, because I think we don't really talk as a society enough about how we are constantly choosing numbness over feeling. Drugs, alcohol, social media, dating culture, hookup culture, gambling, anything that you do where ultimately the aim, subconsciously often, is to no longer be in your body and be overwhelmed with what you're feeling inside of your body. That's numbing. And we're taught it so young. We are literally taught to numb ourselves out to what we feel so young. We're taught to be in our head. We're taught to dissociate. And we just kind of convince ourselves that that's the way that it's fine to move through life. And, you know, when I look back at that time in my life, at these very like snapshot moments of needing to be so numb in order to be inside of that relationship, it really makes me very sad. Like, it makes me really fucking sad to think about that, because the point of a relationship is to have somebody there that makes you better, that allows you to grow, that allows you to self-actualize, that allows you to be your most authentic self. And if you are literally needing to take ketamine or Valium or have a drink because of the way that your relationship makes you feel, like, that is got to be a massive red flag. And I don't think we take it seriously enough when we have that feeling around people of like, oh, fuck, I need a drink. Even in social circles, I don't think we pay attention to that feeling enough. So yeah, it's just really powerful and really sad, honestly. The other thing that I really thought was really powerful about this song was her first verse, which is basically the only verse in the album, which is not just her screaming that she needs drugs and alcohol to be inside of this relationship. And she's like, the ground beneath me is gone. You pulled the safety net. I moved across an ocean from my family, from my friends. The foundation is shattered. You've made such a fucking mess. I tried to be your modern wife, but the child in me protests. I literally have tears coming to my eyes when I read that, because you hear it in the song and you think, oh, that's so clever. But if you actually think about it, the contortion, the self-abandonment, the shape-shifting she is trying to do in order to be his modern wife. Modern being that she would accept this open relationship, that she would do whatever he wanted from her, that she would not make a big deal, she would be just chill and easy. And like, that's fine on a logical level. Like, I think most of us could probably talk ourselves into something like that, because we think, oh, it's modern, I don't need to be attached. Like, if I really loved him, I want him to be happy. But like, our attachment wounds are so ever present in our lives. All of the things that we experienced inside of our relationships with our parents, especially like the parent that you had the most conflict with. And I would imagine inside of Lily's life, like her father actually left when she was young. So she didn't actually have that relationship with her father. She had that abandonment wound coming from very early on. And so in her dating life, she most likely was constantly searching out this same feeling of like, will they, won't they? An avoidant partner would be a really perfect match for her. And this relationship dynamic, which is kind of like this like slow pull away, you know, like it's the desire for other people inside of the relationship that's supposed to be just you and him. And this thing that you've agreed to, and then you recognize that actually it's so fucking painful for the child in you, because the child in your life just wants to be loved and taken care of, and she wants to be safe. She wants to be safe. And ultimately, she's choosing something that doesn't allow her to be safe. And yeah, it's just really, really incredibly sad. It's also something that I saw a couple lines down is like, she says, let me find it. The girls are looking at me to teach them all about love, but I can't seem to hold my shit together long enough. So fucking painful, because obviously if you are a parent, and especially if you are a parent to two girls, they are constantly looking at you and the relationships that you hold, the boundaries you hold, the standards you hold, the way you treat yourself, the way you deal with struggle in your life, the way that you and your partner interact. They are looking at that and they are just mopping it all up. They're like little sponges. We all are. At some point in our life, we were watching unhealthy dynamics in our life and we were getting the signpost that was what love looked like. And I think that explains why so many of us have had dysfunctional relationships in our lives, or dysfunctional sexual relationships in our lives, or even dysfunctional friendships, because the way that we saw people interacting in our lives and labeling it love or friendship or sex or normal is often super dysfunctional. We saw people like pushing other people away, running away from problems, not discussing things, having really like stunted conversation and communication. And it must be really painful because she is going through this moment in her life where she really can't even find the footing underneath her own feet. And then she has 2 young children watching this play out, watching her desperate for a drink, watching her crazy and kind of going through her partner's phone, the disconnection that must be present inside of their relationship when they're in the home. And it's like, the weight of that is so powerful and so present because you're aware in all of those moments that everything that those girls witness are going to be what they cast as normal in their life and will at some point in their life no doubt repeat. And the weight of that is really, really heavy. The other thing that I thought was so poignant about this track was that it really brings into sharp focus the dynamic that they have inside of their relationship right now. Because of this open relationship, they have been thrown into this dynamic that is super heightened, and you can hear it in the way that she speaks about needing a drink and about needing her medicator to come back into her life, her husband to come back into her life when she's like climbing up the walls. And it's a pattern you might have heard about before, and if you haven't, it's a really interesting thing to look at. But it's called the drama triangle or the victim triangle. And it basically says that in any dynamic that you have inside of a relationship, you've got 3 poles. And it's basically the victim, the perpetrator, and the savior. And so it means that at any given time, they are looping through this triangle of roles that they could be playing. And right now, Lily is in this victim place, right? She's the one that's having this open relationship pushed upon her. She needs a drink. She's very weak. She's in a position of like needing and wanting and like reaching out. And what's fascinating to me is that she sees her husband as both the perpetrator and the savior. And that is just such a confusing dynamic that exists in so many toxic relationships or challenging moments inside of relationships like this, where her husband is the perpetrator because it's his desire, his open relationship, his behavior on the outside world that is really causing her pain. It is really the thing that is pushing her into this place in the world where all of her abandonment wounds, her fears, her inadequacies, her insecurities are coming up. And then he's also the savior because she believes that he is the only one that can stop her pain by coming back and choosing her and stopping having this open relationship and really like coming back into her world and telling her she's the one, it's all going to be okay, I'm not going to choose other women. If he could just finally come back and love her properly, then she would be safe and she would be able to like be okay again. And it's just really interesting to see this like trauma bond kind of dynamic so perfectly playing out in this one moment, in this one track, because this is like the hallmark of the toxic relationship that you might have, the trauma bond that you might have. And it's literally why this dynamic can be so addictive for women and for men, because there's this constant movement between hope and pain and hope and pain and hope and pain and like, will they, won't they? And that's why you can end up in such a toxic loop with another person. Such an addictive cycle to be a part of. And it's why it can feel so confusing to be in these kind of toxic dynamics or these toxic moments inside of relationships, because you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm a smart woman. Why am I choosing this?
Don't come home, I don't want you in my bed. Go to the apartment in the West Village instead. I'll drop off your clothes, your mountain medication. I'm already on my way, heading to the station. Stuck on the F, there's a problem on the line. I couldn't be more stressed, I'm losing my mind. Up to the first floor, key in the front door. Nothing's ever gonna be the same anymore. And that's when I realize something don't feel right. I didn't know it was a pussy pass, pussy pass, pussy pass, pussy pass. I always thought it was a dojo, dojo, dojo. So I'm looking at a sex addict, sex addict, sex addict, sex addict. I'll talk about it all now, oh no.
So this track again is one that really like comes and kind of slaps you in the face. And I think it's like this, the dichotomy of like what she's talking about versus the actual musicality is like very powerful and in your face, because there's this real ethereal, dreamy feel to it. And then she's talking about like the moment in her relationship where she is actually recognizing, maybe for the first time, in a real way, like in a conscious way. I think she's had little bits of her body trying to speak to her throughout the last kind of, whatever, it's 6 tracks it's been. But this is the moment where she's kind of come face to face with the reality of the situation. And what's really fascinating to me is like in the first line of this song, she's kicking him out of the house because she is seeing the reality of what he's doing to their relationship and how his choices are affecting her. And basically she's reaching a point where she doesn't really want to be close to him, physically proximate to him anymore. But what was fascinating to me was like, she's kicking him out, but she's still taking care of him. Because she says, don't come home, I don't want you in my bed. Like that feels very powerful. It feels like a real statement of reaffirming herself and reaffirming her boundaries and her standards in her life. But she literally then in the next line is like, I'll drop your clothes off, your mail and your medication. I'm already on the way. Like I'm headed to the station. And also I'm fucking stuck on this goddamn train because there's a problem on the line. I'm stuck waiting around to drop off your things while you are setting fire to our marriage, essentially. And it really speaks to the dynamic that still exists inside of their relationship. Even in this moment of trauma and breakdown and like collapse, she's still bringing him his things. Lily is more anxious, and so she tends to do more inside of the relationship. So she's the one that's going to be reading the books and watching the Instagram videos and trying to figure out how they can fix things. She's the one that's going to be doing more inside of the relationship, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, doing the cooking, all of the things, even agreeing to things that she doesn't even want, because she so much wants to take care of this relationship that she's willing to accept things that are unacceptable for her. And this again was like really familiar to me, because I even remember at a point in my own breakup, we were breaking up, we had broken up. And I, at that time, didn't really have very many friends. I had maybe 2 or 3 close-ish friends that I could call and get help from, basically, like that kind of level of closeness. And I remember staying at one of their houses, and she had gone away for the weekend, and so I was staying in her house. And I remember speaking to my ex-partner's brother, who he was not close to. He was not really close to his family. But I remember speaking to his brother and saying, like, take care of X and make sure that you're there for him and reach out to him. And like, I was really over-functioning still inside of this relationship, even though we had broken up. I was still reaching out to his family, trying to make sure that his healing would go okay. I was still trying to like finesse his life so that he would have the best experience possible, because that was what I felt kept me safe inside of our relationship. Like, I felt that if I was the one that was always giving, if I would make sure his life was as perfect, as easy, as lovely as possible, then he would choose me. And I don't think that definitely didn't end after we broke up. Like, there was still a very long period of time where I was still trying to insert myself, I guess, in some ways, like insert myself out into his healing and his next chapter of his life. And it was because it was just such an ingrained pattern from my childhood that, like, if I could take up this space to make other people's lives easier, better, simpler, then I would do that. But I wouldn't take up space where it was for me. I wouldn't give my real needs, my real desires, my real self to the relationships, because I just learned that that was not safe inside of my childhood. So it was just really, like, I know it feels like such a small little detail, but if you actually think about it, like, if you've just kicked your partner out of the house, why are you dropping off their things? Like, tell them to come and get their shit, you know what I mean?
I found a shoebox full of handwritten letters from broken-hearted women wishing you could have been better. Sheets pulled off the bed and strewn all on the floor. Long black hair, probably from the night before. Wayne Reed bag with the handles tied. Sex toys, butt plugs, lube inside. Hundreds of Trojans, you're so fucking broken. How'd I get caught up in your double life?
This is the moment where she is coming face to fucking face with the truth of who he is. Like, this is the aspect of self that he is hiding from her. This, like, compulsive, insatiable search for love, validation, being chosen, being wanted by other women. Even you can hear in that verse how he obviously is, like, giving so much more than just sex to these women. He is quite obviously continuing on with his, like, promises, his fantasies that he's creating for all the women in his life, Lily included, where these women, when the relationship that they are having slows down or stops, they are writing him letters being like, I wish you could have been better. Like, I wish you could have chosen me. I wish you could have given me what I needed. I wish you could have been kinder or less selfish or been better. And, like, I've sent so many of those letters to my ex. Like, it's like, it's painful to look back on. And, like, this habit of basically begging somebody to be who you need them to be who they've pretended to be, so that you can actually, like, stay with them. Even though ultimately I think Lily knows, and I think I knew also at the time, and a lot of my clients, when they come to me, they say that they have known for a long time that the partner that they were with was not right for them. But there was just something happening in their world that was so compulsive that they just had to go back to them, because even though their needs weren't being met, even though they weren't really being themselves, even though their sex life was fucked up, even though their relationship felt all over the place and push-pull and anxious avoidant, like, there was just this compulsion that they had to return over and over and over, because they hoped in their heart of hearts that their person could be better, that they could fulfill the potential that they have inside of themselves, you know? Like, I think women are so incredible at seeing the potential that people have inside of them. And the sad part of that, the sad flip side of that, is that that becomes a reason for many women to stay in relationships that don't serve them, you know? So I just thought this was such a powerful track, because it's really talking to that moment where heartbreak, like, cracks you open, where you're finally, like, you're seeing the truth and you're like, oh fuck, like, there's no more rose-colored glasses. Like, it's just the dirty, grimy reality of what's happening inside of your relationship, and, like, the secrets that have been hidden, the ways that they are behaving that you can't unsee anymore, you know? And I think so often it's just, it can be this tiny moment, you know, like seeing hair on the bed. And it's just like those moments where you can't come back from. And I'm sure inside of your own relationship, there was a moment like that, where there was something happening inside of your relationship where it became like the straw that broke the camel's back, where that thing happened, you saw that thing, you heard that thing, you read that thing, whatever it may have been, and, like, there was no coming back from it. And those moments can feel like such a fucking collapse. They can feel like the end of your world. But honestly, looking back, those moments where I couldn't unsee the things that had been said or done, they really are some of the most pivotal moments in my life. And I mean, they were painful as fuck at the time, but, like, the life that I have now, I only have because I was strong enough to go through those moments and make new choices and have them be the rock bottom for me. To have them be like that moment where you know there's no coming back from, and actually like holding that line, you know, because, you know, in those toxic dynamics, it's easy to come back and go forward and go back and go back and back, you know. So allowing yourself to experience those rock bottom moments as rock bottom moments, it's so powerful and it's so pivotal, and it will literally change your life.
I went through your bedside drawer. You know I've never been inclined to have to do that before. Never been by doors. But you took someone shopping night in May 24. You bought her a handbag. It wasn't cheap. I was in London, probably asleep. Did you got some Montauk for the weekend? Was there an encore? Did it pay dividends? Is that why won't you tell me what her name is? This is outrageous. Why is she famous? Say that it's over. Do you mean a hiatus? Why won't you tell me what a sad man is giving fortunes then? What a sad man is giving fortunes then. What are you so scared of? Do you think I'm gonna contact her and tell her what for? Gonna get divorced? It's a marriage of convenience and it's how you adore. I think you're sinking, you're protecting a lie, and you don't want it thinking that you cheat on your wife. You're such a coward, you can't tell the truth. You love all the power, but you're not even cute though, no. Why won't you tell me what her name is? This is outrageous. Why is she famous? Say that it's over. Do you mean a hiatus? Why won't you tell me what a sad man is giving fortunes then? What a sad man is giving fortunes then.
So this next track is 4chan Stan, which lol, hilarious, good girl. I just love the subtle shade. I really feel like at this point in the album, Lily is getting to the point where she's like seeing the truth of her husband, and it's like embarrassing. Like there's no other way to say it. Like she's seeing the reality of this insatiable need that he had and how disappointing it is compared to the fantasy that he sold her, basically. Like, and calling him 4chan Stan, like obviously this is like a troll reference. She's saying like, you are like a fucking troll on the internet. This little man that sits behind a computer screen and sells people the dream, and then actually like shows up and you're like this pathetic little creature that has nothing to offer, and you're just like this stunted man that has so much work to do on himself, and he sells himself as this dream character that's going to give you this fantasy life. But when you actually get close and see the reality, you pull back the curtain, and all that's behind the curtain is this little man sitting in a chair, and he's like the puppeteer, he's like the puppet master. And I just think it's really sad, this moment in the and I also just think this moment in the album is like really sad because she's starting to see herself in a different light as well. You know, she's looking at herself and she's like, I went through your bedside drawer. You know, I've never been inclined to have to do that before. It is killing her to not know who this other woman or these other women are. She is like going through his things. She's constantly searching through his text as he was doing before. And again, this is something I super resonate with, and I'm sure a lot of you out there do, where you start to be in a relationship where you start to recognize that the things that you are doing, the way that you are showing up, is this other way that is unlike you. Like when you have safety inside of a relationship, when you have that loyalty, and when you have the feeling of being taken care of inside of a relationship, then you don't feel inclined to go through somebody's things. You don't feel inclined to like spy on them or read their text. But when you are in this moment where you have chosen a relationship that mirrors the relationship you've had as a child, where what's happening is you're seeking safety where there is none, and the not knowing is literally killing her, because then she kind of feels like it could be anyone, you know? Like the struggle is when you don't know the details of anything like this, it means that it kind of puts you on the defensive with everybody around you, particularly all women. So I could really imagine this not knowing was causing a lot of friction with herself and her relationships with other women and other people in general, because not knowing and not knowing what other people know and not knowing if you're the woman that my partner is with, and it's like so painful, you know? And then the next thing that she's talking about is like, why are you so scared? Why won't you tell me? Do you think I'm going to contact her and tell her what for? Going to get divorced, that it's a marriage of convenience, that you're protecting a lie? And it's just interesting because in some ways in this moment, she's alluding to the fact that she, in participating in his lies, is also protecting him. She is the one that has to like not know and not speak to these women and not be involved and not be like outing this guy for the way that he's behaving and what he's actually doing to her. Because I'm sure that in his reality, when he's speaking and living with and fucking these other women, like he is telling them that everything is above board and it's just something they've decided on. And it's just really painful for her. And that reality, he doesn't want that revealed. And so by proxy, she ends up having to protect his reputation as well by not speaking to them. And I think that's really challenging. And what's really interesting is there's a real parallel between this like microcosm and this whole album as a story, because Lily Allen has written this album as a way to tell her story, what she went through. But the way that it's being framed by the public and by reviewers and blah, blah, blah is like that it's a divorce album. Like she is going in on her ex-husband. But it's like when you go through a relationship with another person, especially where the breakdown was really challenging or the relationship was really challenging, and you want to tell your story, because telling your story is part of your own healing journey. It's part of reclaiming what happened and like your part in it, and also the part that was not yours to carry. And it's kind of like, where does their story end and your story begin, you know? Because this whole album is really told from the point of view of Lily, and the whole way through she's not sharing anything that he's said. She's not sharing his half of the conversation or anything like this, but still people are framing it as like this like takedown album almost. And I thought that was really fascinating, because what is the expectation? Is our expectation that women just shut the fuck up and don't tell people, don't tell the world, don't go public about the way that they are experiencing relationships? Because honestly, you know, one of the reasons that I could see my relationship in a new light, and I'm not talking necessarily about the breakup, but I'm talking even about the things that I experienced in my relationship, like the imbalance between the kind of housework we would do or how much emotional labor I was having to do. Like I truly didn't know that that was such a universal experience of the feminine until I got on TikTok. Like about, how many years have I been on TikTok? I don't know, whatever. When I got on TikTok and I started seeing a lot of content around this imbalance inside of the home and inside of the relationship, you know, I always thought that was something that was reserved for wives with kids. And I always felt bad for those women. And, you know, it took having that mirror of TikTok in front of me to really recognize that, like, that was also the role that I was playing inside of my relationship, even as a professional, child-free, successful DJ, interior designer at the time. Like, even though I was the modern woman, I was still stuck in these patriarchal roles that are found everywhere. And that was an eye-opener for me. I really didn't know that until that point. And it was just a lot to take in.
You ready? The original sounds, you know. I am in style. You're ready, them something nice, you know.
For you to treat be open. We built a palace on the perfect street. You really sold me on a dream. And now I'm looking at my Tinder. Or maybe I'm more of a hinder. He wants to take me out to dinner. Hope he looks better than his picture. I love.
The next track on this album is called Non-Monogamami, and oh damn. I don't want to fuck with anyone else. I know that's all you want to do. I'm so committed that I'd lose myself because I don't want to lose you. Changed my immigration status for you to treat me like a stranger. Why do I feel like such a failure? A life with you looked good on paper. Ouch. This verse speaks to me so much about this kind of way that women are taught to be inside of relationships, where we are taught to give up ourselves for the other person. And this can take so many forms inside of relationships. It can be you denying what you want or need, or becoming a people pleaser, scraping away what makes you a full-bodied person. Like if you're somebody that gets into a relationship and all of a sudden drops her friends, drops her hobbies, drops her career, like if you are somebody that just like immediately jumps into a relationships and makes it your everything, it means that when you have to eventually leave that relationship, you leave with nothing. And I think that's what this song is talking about. Like she has given up so much of herself to be with this man, changed her immigration status, she moved to the States. She's like in a completely new life. But what was sold to her was a dream. She was sold on this, like, a life with you looks good on paper. In theory, it should be the perfect life, but in reality, it sucks because she is just trying to be somebody different in order to fit into this life. You know, it's got to be so painful because she says literally like, we fell in love and now I'm looking at my Tinder. Like this is this moment in her world where she's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, how did I end up in a position where I've fallen in love? I've gotten everything that the world told me would make me happy. And now I'm sitting here looking on Tinder for some reason that it almost feels like she doesn't even really know why she's on there. Like, and I feel like something that I really recognized when I was in my past relationship was because he wanted an open relationship, I wanted to force myself to want an open relationship too, because I wanted so badly to meet his needs and I wanted so badly to be the woman that was able to be open and like wanted that. And like, you know, you kind of get into a lot of loops when somebody is using the terminology also open relationship, you know, like framing it as open or closed. Even just in terms of language, that has a real connotation to it. Open, good. Closed, bad. And it kind of feels like, you know, when she's repeating this idea of like, I'm just trying to be open. I'm trying to be open. I'm trying to be open. But what we have to recognize is that you can be an open person. You can be a loving person. You can be somebody that is so open to new people and new experiences without necessarily wanting your relationship to be open. You can have a relationship where you want to have boundaries and you want to have a person that you've chosen to go super deep with and still be open to life. One of the ways that we kind of get gaslit when it comes to open relationships is just the framing of that, you know, because a true open relationship that's done safely and ethically and really allows both partners to thrive has to be done in such a way that you are communicating honestly and able to talk about the pain and the mistrust and the jealousy and the struggle as well, you know. And I think a lot of the time the people that are drawn to open relationships are drawn to an open relationship because they subconsciously see it as a way to escape the depth of a more traditional setup relationship where you're monogamous. They find it a way to be allowed to have the stability of one while also having the excitement of the other. And I just think that a lot of the time the people that are attracted to that can tend towards avoidance. They can tend towards just like relationships that are not so healthy. And so the way that we frame it as open or closed is just really a language tool that kind of makes you feel, as the person that wants to have a closed relationship, lesser than, inadequate, like not evolved. And you know, it's really sad to see that we kind of put ourselves in those camps. If you are somebody that is just monogamous and you want to have that deep relationship with somebody. And I also really just don't think that it's a mistake that she called it non-monogamummy, because for me, what that speaks to is I am in the mother role for you. Like I have to be this endless pit of giving you whatever you want without question. Like, I move across the world, I change my immigration status, we get this house, I do whatever you need, I take care of your needs, like I am bringing your clothes over to your apartment even though you're fucking cheating on me, like I'm in all this pain and I'm still taking care of you. Like, that is the mother role. And that's, I think, what she's finding herself in. She's like, I am already doing everything to fucking care for you, and you're still asking for me to be non-monogamous so that you can have the benefit of that, and I get to just be like the non-monogam mommy where I'm still in the fucking mother role. I don't reap any of the benefits. Like, what am I doing here, you know?
As we try to be open, I look in your eyes, you say your heart is broken. Me tell you that you're chosen, and you tell me that your heart get frozen. It's trying to be
The song also is really interesting because it's Specialist Moss that's rapping it, but it's really incredible because the line is, we tried to be open, I look in your eyes, you say your heart is broken. Me tell ya that you're chosen, and you tell me that your heart got frozen. Like, we tried to have this open relationship. You hurt me so fucking much. Then you come and tell me, no, I still choose you, I love you. And your response to that is just like, I can't feel it anymore. My heart is frozen. My heart is so broken that now it's frozen. I am numb to this relationship. I am numb to any safety or love or care you can give me because you have broken my heart and now it's frozen. Like, it's just completely numb to you. And I think that's the point in the relationship that so many people don't really recognize that they're getting to. And it doesn't need to be about open relationship. Like, if you think about the breakdown of your own past relationship or past relationships with that one topic, that one irreconcilable difference that you guys had between you, where you knew, you just knew, you saw, you heard, you recognized that thing, and all of a sudden your heart just closes down to that person. And that's what they're describing right here. And it's just such a perfect description of it. You broke my heart and now I can't feel anything for you.
In love with somebody else, felt you pull away, and now I'm blaming myself. You keep me in the dark. Tell yourself it's kind. Protect me from the pain. Meanwhile, I'm losing my mind. Look at my reflection. I feel so drawn, so old. I booked myself a facelift, wondering how long it might hold. I gave you all my power, how I'm seeing through your eyes, through your eyes.
This song is so incredible. This whole album is so incredible because, God, the nuance of those moments that she is speaking to on all of these tracks is so powerful. Like, you kept me in the dark. You told yourself it's kind. Protect me from the pain. Meanwhile, I'm losing my mind. Like, this setup that we have, it doesn't work for me. I'm trying to tell you over and over and over. I need to know because I don't feel safe. I don't feel in control. I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm losing my fucking mind, but I have to just acquiesce to whatever you want inside of this relationship. And so instead of like changing something on the outside, instead of saying like, I need to walk away from this relationship, we as women have been taught to start to dissect ourselves. Like, it's like, I look at my reflection, I feel so drawn, so old, booked myself for a facelift, wondering how long it might hold. I gave you all my power, how I'm seen through your eyes. You give me just enough hope to hold on to nothing. Oh, like, it makes me so sad because you can feel this moment where inside of a relationship, inside of a breakdown of a relationship, inside of a heartbreak, where you start to look at yourself and you're like, is it me? Like, am I not pretty enough? Am I not hot enough? Am I not sexy enough? Am I not feminine enough? Like, what is it about me that's wrong? And so often, especially in this fucking image obsessed culture that we live in, it always feels like the answer is you're not enough, you're not young enough, you're not pretty enough. Like, and so we have this desire to try and fix ourselves. And so we'll starve ourselves, or we'll go and get plastic surgery or Botox or whatever it is. But those things are not coming from a place of like a sovereign choice because we want to do something for ourselves. It's coming from this desperation to try and want to hold on to another person to fix ourselves so that we can finally feel worthy. And this is why I believe that heartbreak is such an incredibly powerful moment in a woman's life, because there are so many ways that we have been taught to plug the wounds and the pains and the fears that we hold as people, as women in this world, with the external things, right? Like, we get the relationship, we get the kids, we get the success, we get the money, we get the facelift, we get the beauty, we can be young forever. Like, and all of these things that we choose in the external can be ways to try and plug the wounds that we're carrying inside of ourselves, the lack of self-worth, the lack of self-love, the attachment pains, the things that we were taught about ourselves that we're carrying around, saying like, this is who I am, this is what I'm worth. And you know, a lot of those things are not true, and they're not really ours to carry, and yet we carry them because we've been taught them for such a long time inside of this culture and inside of our families, inside of the lineage that we live in and the feminine just beings that we inhabit. And heartbreak is a moment where, you know, all of those things kind of fall away and you can feel really raw, like you don't have the relationship anymore, and it kind of like uncovers all of these pains and woundings and traumas that you carry and gives you a chance to finally say like, am I willing to take this into the next stage of my life? Am I willing to do this again? Be constantly trying to plug these holes with external things, or am I finally willing to do whatever it takes to heal so that I can truly be myself in this next chapter of my life?
You give me just enough hope to hold on to. Nothing.
I feel like this lyric here of like, but you give me just enough hope to hold on to nothing. It's really like kind of a double entendre for we have just enough from the external world that keeps us safe from all of the things that we experience inside of our emotional worlds that we need to deal with. But it's also what the relationship has been giving her. The relationship has been giving her literally just enough that she can decide not to look deeper, that she can decide that she doesn't need to leave, that it's literally like he's put one tiny feather underneath her back as she's fallen from a 1,000-story fall onto the ground, and he's put one feather underneath there. So it's not quite the rock bottom. He gives her just enough. He gives her like that tiny, like the tiniest bit of hope that things could turn around and be different. And it's just enough, but it's actually nowhere near enough as well, you know? And I think that's a dichotomy that we can get caught in a lot as women inside of relationships, because we want so badly to believe in people even when they show us that they can't be who we need them to be and who we want them to be and who they have the possibility to be. And what keeps us in those relationships is the hope that maybe with enough effort on our part, with enough doing on our part, with enough help on our part, that finally things might change. And yeah, it's just a really scary thing to become aware of, because if you look back at your past relationship, what was it that kept you there? Past the point of not having your needs met, past the point of conversations that looped and actions that never changed. Like, what was it that kept you there? Hope. It's always hope.
Though I go by Dallas Major, but that's not really my name, you know. To be quite famous, that was way back in the day. Yes, I'm here for validation, and I probably should explain how my marriage has been open since my husband went astray.
This, for me, this line is so telling, because for me, it really feels like what's happening is she's understanding that she was pushed into a situation that she didn't really ever agree to. He told her that this is what he was going to do ultimately, and she agreed to it because she felt like she had no other options. She wanted to please him. He was ignoring all of her nonverbals, and he wanted to have an easy life. And so he did it in a way that gave him kind of the cover of ethical, because he came to her with it and he told her directly. But ultimately, if we were really to dissect the conversation that they had and the way that this relationship was opened, I would not say that it was an ethical way that it was done. I think for a lot of people, they think that this moment in the album is where Lily is back out on dating apps because she's taking her power back. But for me, this really feels like the moment where she has decided to go on dating apps because there is this sense of needing to create balance. She is in a relationship with a man who is actively fucking like God knows how many people. And so there's a space inside of her that wants to find a level of control. And sometimes when you're in a situation like this, I know that it was true for me, that like I wanted so badly to want to date other people. I wanted to want to fuck other people, but I just didn't, right? And I remember a time in my relationship where me and my partner went on Field together, which if you don't know it, it's like, I mean, I guess it's kind of a hookup app, but like I'm not really into hooking up, but it's just kind of for like more outside the box relationships, shall we say. Like maybe it's like for two couples that want to meet up, or the threesome, or it's just for people that want to date that maybe are like not so into, like maybe they already have an arrangement, or there's something just like more complex about their relationship. That's kind of what Field is for. And like a lot of people use it for hooking up, don't get me wrong. But I just remember that moment in my relationship and like wanting to want to go out with other people and be interested in other people when I just wasn't. And that's what this track feels like for me. It feels like she is trying to push herself to create some sort of equity inside of the relationship. If he's fucking all these people, I want to at least have other people that are interested in me, so that maybe he understands a tiny bit of like how it fucking feels, you know? But ultimately, she is choosing something even though she fucking hates it. Like she has no desire to be on Tinder. She's married. She doesn't want that. She's made that quite clear. And it's like, it's kind of like this trauma bond thing coming up again, where she's like, she's somebody that is like very powerful in her life, and somehow inside of her relationship she feels ultimately powerless. It's literally making her choose things she doesn't want. It's literally making her behave in ways that she doesn't want to behave, because she is just so connected to this relationship. She's so stuck in this trauma bond that she's just locked in this loop of like hope and fear and performance and longing, and just like all of this chaos that's swirling inside of her relationship. And it's just really speaking to how dysregulated she is in her nervous system, like that she would choose to be in this relationship while she's like going out onto Tinder and in a way that she doesn't want to be doing, right? The other thing that I thought was really interesting was she's telling people in this moment like she used to be quite famous way back in the day. And it's interesting, this idea of fame has come up quite a few times inside of the album, right? Like she used to be famous. Is the other woman famous? Like fame, I think, is put in here as something we have been told societally will save us. Like if we are famous, if we are successful, if we get money, then we will be saved from all of the things that might hurt us in the world, right? Like, I mean, she's saying like, I used to be famous, but that was way back in the day. But I'm sure on some level she recognizes she still is famous. Like she's very famous. She's Lily Allen. She has a famous husband. They're in the public eye. And yet that still hasn't saved her from this collapse of her marriage. This, like, you would think with so many eyes on you being in the public eye, in some way that would protect you because your partner can't do things behind your back and all of these different elements. But I think there's the recognition that like, fame hasn't saved her. The money hasn't saved her. Her power hasn't saved her. Like she is a high level woman. She's a woman that has made it in the world, and yet she's still struggling inside of her relationship. And that is something that I see all of the time inside of my work. What I think is really fascinating is a lot of the time when you are successful, when you have made it well in your career, when you are like doing things out in the world, you are a powerful woman out in the world. When you have collapse inside of your relationships, when you go through a heartbreak, it can feel like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not this person. Like, I'm a powerful woman. Like, how the fuck is this happening to me? Why am I in a relationship where my partner wants to open it? Why am I saying yes to this? Why am I people pleasing? Why don't I love myself? Why don't I value myself? Look how good I am in the rest of my life. And I think it's one of the things that can really stop powerful women from getting the assistance and the guidance that they need in times of heartbreak, because there's this sense of like, no, I've got it, I'm good. I'm the strong one, I'm the powerful one, I'm the one that like has her shit together. I don't need help. But actually what heartbreak uncovers is all of those like small little blockages to your true power, to your true authenticity, to your true self-love and self-worth. Because although the world has shown you success, although you are a powerful woman out in the world, there is so many things still standing in the way, and they are unveiled by what happens inside of relationships and what happens especially inside of heartbreak. And that's why I think it's such a fucking powerful moment for a woman, because it exposes the gap. Like, it exposes the gap between who you feel like you are in the world and who you show up as inside of relationships. And so that's what I feel like is happening inside of this track. Like, I hate it here, I hate it here, I hate it here, I hate it here, I don't want this. And I think that repetition is like, I hate where I've found myself in my relationship. I hate what I'm agreeing to. I hate the people pleasing. I hate the fact that I am choosing you over me. Like, I hate the fact that I need validation from the external. I hate it here. Like, I hate this version of myself that I've found myself to be, even though I had all of the trappings of life that the world told me would make me happy. I hate it here because ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't get to be myself and still be chosen. I don't even choose myself. That's what that song says to me.
I feel embarrassed, I feel ashamed. You're so indifferent, and that's insane. Where's all your empathy for all my pain? My friends all tell me you are deranged. I wanna feel held, I wanna be told I'm special and I'm unusual. I want your desire, I wanna be spoiled, I wanna be told I'm beautiful. Why won't you beg, beg, beg for me? Why won't you beg for me? Oh, why won't you beg, beg, beg for me? Why won't you beg for me? Oh.
Beg for Me is another track that really hits like right in the gut for me, because it really for me is telling the story of like the dichotomy between the kind of love that a woman wants in her life and the kind of love that she settles for. Because the vision that women can hold in their lives for the kind of love that they want to experience versus the love that they actually stay in relationship with, where she says, I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, you're so indifferent, and that's insane. She's in pain. My friends are telling me you're deranged. Like, those two realities are so vastly different, right? And I think so many of us are going into relationships with a vision of what we want, and then we get in front of a person, and for some reason, those ideals, those visions, those standards, those boundaries go out the window, because we sit in front of somebody and all that the child inside of us wants is to be chosen. And it means that we become willing to give ourselves up. We become willing to become whoever they want. There's like even this idea of like, I'll never leave you. If you want me to stay, I'll never leave you. This is such a dangerous moment in a relationship. And I really remember feeling it inside of my own relationship. Like, there was nothing my partner could do to make me leave him. And believe me, a lot happened inside of that relationship that was way past the fucking red line. Like, if it had been my daughter or my friend inside of that relationship and they told me some of the things that had passed inside of that relationship, I would have dragged them by their hair. I would have dragged them by their hair out of that relationship. And I know that's not really a solution. I get it. I'm being hyperbolic, but there were no red lines inside of my relationship. And it feels like for me inside of Lily's relationship, there's also no red lines. I'll never leave you is what she says. Because if you turn up to a relationship with a certain vision, with certain boundaries and standards in place, but you do not enforce them, If you say, if you cheat, I will leave, but then they cheat and you don't leave, you are teaching the person in front of you that the boundaries and standards that you have are not requirements, they are suggestions. And they are suggestions that they are free to break. And if the person in front of you is willing to break your boundaries and standards and is willing to hurt you, knowingly hurt you, and then remain in the relationship with you, you've chosen somebody that is okay with profiting off your pain. And that is a really dangerous situation to be in a relationship. And unfortunately, that the way that I phrased it might feel to you like, oh my God, that's so extreme. But actually, there are many small, tiny, itsy bitsy situations, and they go all the way to the macro, where it's like there are massive situations where in relationships, one person will be profiting off the suffering of the other person. And you have to recognize those moments, like those moments where, let me give you an example. There was a time in my relationship, before we were even in a relationship, where myself and my ex were going to a festival. I was a DJ at the time. I was playing at this festival. I had been invited. I'd gotten a bunch of guest list passes. I invited 2 of my friends and my ex-partner, who was not my ex-partner at the time. We were city kids. We didn't have anything to go to this festival, and we were staying overnight. We were sleeping in a tent or whatever. And we got all of our things together. We got sleeping bags, we got sleeping mats, we got all of the stuff that we needed. And when we ended up going to bed that night, I went down to the bathroom to wash my face. And when I got back to the tent, my ex was sleeping on the sleeping mat that I had gotten. He didn't end up bringing one, but he ended up sleeping on my one, which meant that I had to go to sleep on the cold, hard ground. Got a horrible night's sleep, didn't really sleep at all. And he was very comfortable on the sleeping mat. And that, for me, looking back, was like before we were in a relationship, but it was very much an indication of the level of care that I could expect inside of our relationship. And ultimately, like, you would think like, oh, that's such a tiny little experience, and like that's not a big enough red flag to walk away from a relationship. But when I look back on it, that was an indication of the level of self-awareness, other awareness, and care that was available to me inside of that relationship. And so it should have been maybe not a red flag, but a pink flag at the very least. And it should have put in my mind, like, I need to keep an eye on this, because this level of care does not work for me. And yet if I stay, this person learns over and over and over that this level of care is actually adequate, and that will remain the level of care that will be existing inside of the relationship. So what I'm saying ultimately is that when you are willing to endure anything, that's exactly what you'll get inside of your relationship. So this song is like really painful, because it's just like there's all this desire to be wanted, to be loved, to be taken care of. And instead of actually going out and choosing somebody that can do that for her, she is in a position where she's literally like down on her knees begging. She is begging for the other person in this relationship to beg for her to care enough to fucking try. And she's not getting it, and it's so painful.
I've become invisible, stuck here in my palace. I'm so fucking miserable in my rabbit hole, yeah, I'm Alice. And I'm expected to be nice, picking up the pieces. What is it you sacrifice? I'm protecting you from your secrets. Don't tell the children the truth would be brutal. Your reputation's unstable. God knows how long you've been getting away with it. I've already let you in. All I can do is sing. So why should I let you win? I will not absorb your shame. It's you who put me through this. I could tell myself you changed, do it all again, be deluded. Never get your sympathy. I don't think you're able, but I can walk out with my dignity if I lay my truth on the table. Lie to the children, the ending was mutual.
this track is called Let You Win, but the W-I-N is like W/I-N. Let you in, let you win. And I just love this track because it's like she's finally recognizing that like there is power to be had in taking the truth and reclaiming it as her own, where you're no longer in a space in your life where you're willing to participate in the deception, because like everything about this whole situation has been a deception. Like he has deceived the women he's been telling she's on board and consented this to. He's deceived the world around him. He's now asking her to deceive the children, and she has decided that like it's not something that she's willing to do anymore. Like she's not willing to protect his reputation because she feels like he's been doing this for his whole life, and it's probably true that he has, you know? Like, what does he say? God knows how long you've been getting away with it, because ultimately, as women, we're taught not to tell our stories. We're taught not to tell our stories. We're taught that saying what a man has done to you inside of a relationship by telling the truth about the things that you have experienced with that person is ruining his reputation. And, you know, it's just interesting to me, having been in a toxic relationship. My last relationship was incredibly toxic, and it spilled over into abusive at times. And just holding that knowledge, knowing the girls that he dated before me, wondering if anything would have been different if they had said something to me, if they had experienced something similar. Wondering sometimes if I should say something to the women that I saw that my ex was dating after me, not knowing if it was my place or not, and just having this question mark around where, again, my story ends and his begins. Because oftentimes the silence of women means that we are actually protecting men who are doing bad things, or they are dangerous inside of relationships, or the way that they are showing up is not actually, it's not actually what they propose it to be, you know, out in public. Like a lot of the times in relationships, there will be this facade of like what's on offer. It's like this man who's like, yes, I can communicate, and yes, I'm emotionally available, and yes, I want you and I love you, and all of these things. And like sometimes we're not as evolved as we think ourselves to be. And I mean this for both sexes, but a lot of the time in relationships, because women have been so conditioned to people please and to over communicate and to take this space and hold the pain of anything that's happening in the relationship so that the other person can be comfortable, a lot of the times the dynamic inside of a relationship means that a man's bad behavior will be perpetuated because of the dynamic between the sexes that just exists because of the culture that we live in. And yeah, it just means that we as women end up carrying a lot of pain and shame and trauma for the men that we've let into our lives. And I think that's why there's this great reshuffle at the moment in terms of relationship, because there's so many women that are waking up to the fact that they don't have to do that. They don't have to choose that anymore. And so that naturally is putting a tacit pressure on men to evolve. And there is resistance to that, because up until now, men have been able to skate on what they have been willing to offer. And now that's not really the case. Like women are saying, like, if you are not going to be emotionally available, if you're not going to show up for this relationship, if you're not going to do your part, then I actually don't need to choose this. And I no longer have a need, like a financial or a physical or a safety need to choose you. And I think that's really what she's speaking to also in this, this I already let you in, so why should I let you win? Like ultimately she took a risk on letting him in. She took a bet on him because he was offering her a vision and a fantasy and his potential. And basically she took a chance on that. She was vulnerable, chose him, chose to go all in with him. And ultimately he ended up not being who he said he could be or would be or was. And so she's like, I already let you in. I took this chance. why should I let you win by protecting the truth of who you actually are? And I just think that's such a powerful question mark. And she actually finishes with this line, you've taken everything. And like, this is the line that really hits for me, because it's like, you've taken everything. I moved for you. We built a house together. We have kids. We have a family. We have a whole life that we've built. And you've destroyed it with your actions, with the thing that you have pushed onto us, with the way that you've done it, with the lack of communication, with the blurring of boundaries, with the breaking of boundaries, with just like all this deception that you have pushed upon me. You've taken everything from me, because now not only do I not know who the fuck you are, I ultimately don't know who I am. And I think that's a really relatable feeling for women inside of heartbreak and relationships that have really collapsed in upon themselves, where it's like, I am heartbroken that I've lost this person, but I'm even more heartbroken that I lost myself along the way trying to keep them. And that reality can hit really hard. And, you know, the only silver lining that I have to that, knowing that so many women come upon in their heartbreak, is that that can actually be the thing that changes everything. That knowledge that you had been so willing to let go of yourself to choose another, and you can use this heartbreak as the catalyst, as the portal for you to finally become the version of yourself that would never, never do that again.
You're just a little boy, looking for his mommy. Things have gotten complicated, all with all the fame and money. Playing with his toys, he just wants attention. He can't really do attachment, scared he's gonna be abandoned. And finally I see it's not me, it's you. It's all you've always done, it's what you do. Forever till you die, it's true. It's not me, it's you.
And Fruity Loop, of course, is the last track on the album, and I think it's such a fucking powerful track, because there's kind of two parts of it for me. There's this part of Lily in this track that is really taking back the power, where she's looking at all of the ways in which her husband has behaved, all of the ways he was seeking attention and validation and love, and choosing dysfunction and sex and pain, and like going external instead of internal. Like, there was all of these ways in which she is recognizing that her husband is really struggling inside of his life. He is somebody that is like a little boy looking for his mom. Things have gotten complicated because he's rich and he's famous and he can have whatever the fuck he wants. But he's ultimately really struggling with like who he is, what his value is, what his worth is, with loving himself, with being able to be quiet with himself. Like, there is a recognition that her husband is ultimately just a little kid, like we all are, but that right now he is not taking responsibility. He is not taking responsibility for the healing that he needs to do. And this is why I love this track, because there is this recognition that she cannot help him. She cannot fix his shit for him, especially when it seems like he doesn't want to do it himself. And she recognizes, this part is not me, it's you. This is yours to hold. This is not mine to hold. This dysfunction, this pattern, this like open relationship, this dishonesty, this dysfunction is not mine. It's you, and it's yours. But she doesn't stop there, because that's a dangerous place to stop, right? One of the things that I see so often in a lot of the discourse that happens around relationships and breakups, especially messy ones, tricky ones, traumatic ones, push-pull, anxious avoidant, all this stuff, a lot of the discourse stops at, it's not me, it's you, which is a great realization for women to come to in many ways, because women have been taught to take on so much blame and shame and responsibility for the way that relationships have gone, when ultimately, you know, a relationship takes two people, and a lot of the things that women are taught to hold on to are not actually theirs to hold, like the bad behavior and the maybe abuse or the avoidance or whatever the particular thing that your partner brought to the table. Women have been taught to take that on as their own and blame themselves for it. And that's why the discourse stops at like, it's not me, it's you. But I think that that's missing a trick. In fact, my entire world, my entire ecosystem of Body Oracle is based on the fact that that's not enough. That's not far enough into the conversation. And I absolutely love that Lily actually brings it further. She recognizes that although her partner has brought all of this dysfunction and shame and blame and just like chaos to the table, it's also her.
I'm just a little girl looking for a daddy. Thought that we could break the cycle. Thought that I could keep you happy. It is what it is. You're a mess. I'm a bitch. I could fix all your shit. All your shit's yours to fix. 'Cause it's not me. It's you.
What I recognize in that phrase, in that verse, is like she recognizes that she can't save him, but she also recognizes that she has work to do as well. There is trauma and pain and fear and patterns inside of her that she has been numbing out to, that she has been ignoring, that she has been so focused on her husband that she is not actually being paying attention to what needs to be healed inside of her. And so seeing this, I'm the little girl looking for the daddy. I want to break this cycle. I wanted to keep you happy. I'm feeling like this moment in her life is one where she is actually going to take the next step, do the work of actually healing herself. Because this whole album is about the awareness of the patterns that were happening inside of her, the numbness and the acceptance and the settling and the tolerating and the disconnection from herself and the willingness to shapeshift and become whoever he wanted and accept things that she didn't find acceptable at all. And when you finally recognize those things, that is the first step in breaking the cycle that you're in. And the powerful thing about that is that relationships are a mirror. Relationships are going to reveal to you all of the places where you still struggle with pain and fear and trauma and patterns and habits and family stories and the conditioning that you hold and the societal impact and the patriarchal impact. And like, there are all these little blocks that stand in the way of us on our quest to the most epic and beautiful relationships in our lives, to the kind of life that we want to live, where we want to live, what we want to be doing, the impact that we want to have on the world, the money, the success, the fame, all of the things that maybe we are striving for in our lives. There are all these things from our past that have been standing in the way. And so often they look like a lack of self-love, a lack of self-worth, a lack of true trust in yourself or the universe, a willingness to self-abandon, a willingness to stay disconnected from your body, completely dysregulated nervous system. Like, there is a version of you inside that is still young and scared and terrified. And so much of what can happen after heartbreak, if you choose to use it as a portal, is that you can actually heal all of those things that your relationship breakdown have brought awareness to. Now is the moment that you decide that you're no longer willing to repeat the cycle. You're no longer willing to go into your next relationship hoping that you can fix your partner into not feeling these things anymore. No longer going out into the world hoping you can get enough success or enough money to fill the hole that lives inside of you. There is so much possibility that exists in heartbreak, in endings, because all of the things that have been revealed to you are now sitting out in the open, ready to be alchemized, ready to be seen, ready to be turned into all of the things that you are dreaming of in your world. And I think that's why the arc of this album is so fucking fantastic, because it really shows and showed all of the places where Lily has been struggling, and they were so relatable. Like, so many of the women that I work with move through these exact pains and fears and traumas, and they come out the other side because they become willing to do whatever it takes so that they can become the version of themselves where the life that they dream of is not just possible, it's inevitable, because they are a match for it. And that's why I think this album is so powerful and so perfect. And yeah, I just absolutely love it. I would love to hear your take on any of the songs. I would love to hear what your thoughts were on this album. I would love to hear your own experiences, actually, where you recognized yourself in this album, because I know for me, I just saw myself in so many of these different tracks, and it really made me quite emotional listening to this album. So I would love to hear what you think. Let me know down in the comments. Also, this is the first time that I have recorded this podcast with video, so let me know if you prefer it, if you like it. Let me know if there's anything you would change. This is a work in progress, so I'm open to suggestion. I would also love it if you really enjoyed this podcast, that you like, comment, rate, review, share, all of the things, so that we can get this podcast out to more people, because I truly believe that heartbreak gets to be this like incredible portal in a woman's life. It gets to be the moment that you completely reinvent yourself, and it's such an important message. I am on a mission to redefine what heartbreak actually gets to be in a woman's life, because for me, it gets to be the turning point after which nothing is ever the same in the most incredible way. And this is exactly the work that I do with women inside of Body Oracle. So if you've been listening to this podcast, wondering how you can work with me, wondering how you can go deeper on some of the topics that arose in today's podcast, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to send me a DM, or you can find out more information about Body Oracle on my website, www.alaskawolf.com. And so if you've made it this far, I am so grateful for you being here. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the flip side. You've been listening to Heartbreak Alchemy with Alaska Wolf.